been recording. Okay, and I'm just going to go live. Okay, just bear with me for a moment. We're just setting up the meeting for Facebook Live.
Deanna, it says on my end that we are on Facebook Live. Is that
we are there
happening
now. Yes.
Nice. Okay, well, it is past 2 o'clock, so I'd like to get started just to ensure that we are, making the best of everybody's time. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We are going to talk today about the temporary layoff variance application and the process to do that. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got a bit of a PowerPoint for you. So if you could just bear with me for a moment, please. All right, so can you all see my screen? I could get a wave, perhaps. Are we good? Can all see? Awesome. Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Evan. All right, so let's just jump right into this. So we understand that over the course of the pandemic, you have probably had to make some tough calls regarding your business, which would include perhaps laying some staff off. So for context, the COVID-19 emergency layoff period was extended from 13 weeks to 16 weeks, and then it was once again extended to 24 weeks, and that period ends on August 30th. It's important that everyone know that there will not be another extension to this deadline. If an employer would like to extend their temporary layoff, they will need to apply for a variance under Section 72 of the Employment Standards Act. So the government is allowing you to extend your temporary layoff window if your company is not at full capacity, or if you're a company that perhaps falls into phase 4 of the province of BC's plan. And so if you are not at a point where you can bring your employees back, you can apply for a variance. If you do not, that will automatically sever the employment relationship between you and your employee. So without a variance, just as I was saying, if you do not recall your employees by or before August 30th, that will trigger, that could potentially trigger severance for your eligible employees who may be entitled to compensation. So how do you apply for a variance? What does this look like? So you have to survey your impacted employees. The Employment Standards Branch website will house a template for you to use, and also some sample emails that you can send directly to your impacted employees. You will need to select a recall date that is reasonable and realistic for your business. And then you have to demonstrate why you have chosen this date. So if you're one of those phase 4 companies and you don't believe that the fall is the right time, you can say up to January 1st, 2021, but you do have to give reasonings that support your reason for picking that date. When you survey your impacted employees, you must get support from 50% or more of the impacted employees prior to submitting your application. That means they must agree to and support the recall date that you've provided. You will have to complete an online application. This is where you will upload your employees' responses, and you must submit your application by August 25th to ensure that you are meeting the deadline, because the emergency period ends on August 30th. So for people who are keeping track of the dates, that's 12 days away for you to submit your application for the variance. So what does this mean? This extends the temporary layoff period to avoid permanent layoffs, and it does delay potential paying of compensation. It also means that employers and employees must work together in this variance application. In doing so, you have to get your impacted employees to agree to your recall date, and so it's incredibly important that your employees are a part of this process with you. So when you're applying, you can do it online. I'm actually going to go through a bit of a tutorial with you that the province of BC has provided, basically walking through the application process, which you can do online. If going online does not suit your needs, you can go in person to the Service BC offices or the Employment Standards Branch offices. You can also call toll-free at the number that's listed on here. All of these resources, by the way, will be sent out to people who register for this event. If you're watching it on Facebook Live, just leave your email in the comments or send us a direct message, and we'll be sure to forward you the email as well, containing all of this great information. The toll-free line is available in over 140 languages, Monday to Friday, 7:30 in the morning to 5 p.m. And it's just really important to reiterate that a majority of your impacted workers must agree to the recall date, and it's can be several months duration if that's what you think will be realistic for your business. There is lots of online resources and tools that the government has provided to help you all with this process. So you can go gov.bc.ca COVID layoffs. You can actually see the application form at that services link. And then if you have any other questions, they do have a dedicated email line, variance@gov.bc.ca. One thing that the Kamloops Chamber is going to do, we'll be collecting your questions. I imagine there'll be some at the end of this presentation, and there'll be some throughout the course of the next few weeks or next week. We're actually going to bring those questions and give them directly to the employment lawyer that we've been working with for our COVID programming, and she'll be providing some guidance on just helping you make sure you're making the right calls. I'm just going to pull up the chat here. I did see a question come through from Evan. Is there any guidance about how casual employees are impacted? So if you have a casual employee and they entered your employment contract in a casual setting, so there wasn't set hours, and as long as there was a set term, then you follow what the term was put out. If it's just casual on call, I would refer to an HR professional about that, because they're still technically employees of you without having a set contract. So I think I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and take you directly to the screen video that the government provided. Just give me a moment. Technical difficulties here, definitely not a tech problem, but a user problem. All right, so our good friends at Kamloops this week shared some information and more about this program. And so this video tutorial that I'm just going to play a few minutes of was direct from the Ministry of Labor to different chamber executives in the province. And it takes you through the application form right on the government's website. So we'll watch this for a bit. Make sure I have some sound on.
Where this begins, if you were to follow up and take a look at the website. And as you can see here, it gives a bit of a summary page on temporary layoffs, what is extending a COVID temporary layoff variance, goes into the summary of what Denise has gone into. And then what we did was we set it up so that employers and workers have a choice. If you're an employer, you can go through one channel. If you're a worker, the content on the web pages are really focused on a worker perspective, so they have all the information that they might need. I'm going to go with an employer route on the channel, so I'm going to take you in through there. And what you see here now is really stepping through a process of determining if you qualify as an employer, going through the overview the Act and what is taking place there around the temporary layoff, what the benefits are for both employer and the employee. And what we wanted to do is break things down as much as possible to make it as easy and as accessible as possible for any kind of employer to work with their employees. So there's some additional steps here within the part one is informing the employees of the intention to apply and needing more than 50% of those employees, as Deneen was speaking to. Then what we have is documenting that employee support. So we wanted to make sure that there were some sample emails that could actually be modified by the employer. I'm just going to bring that up for you. Actually, I'm going to pull it up after I step through the rest of these pieces. So there's an email that you can actually modify specifically to ensure that the information specific to the employer is there and the business. And then also that there's a tool that's available that can be helping the employees document their support once they've agreed. Then there's a submission of that application online, and you would go through this button here, and I'm going to just step through that as well, so you can see what that, and I'll just go through as quickly as possible. And then we've got step 4, receiving the notice from employment standards. So once that application goes in, it's just letting people know what to expect next. And the hope is that once they've received their confirmation, that they're going to communicate to employees what the outcome of the application was once completed. So I'm just going to step here. I'm going to switch I'm going to do another share here for this particular form. So here we go. This is the template that we've created for employers. And so what you can see is everything that's highlighted in yellow. The business, the employer can just update this to be specific to what they're stating, and it includes all the information that the employee would need to know, as far as including that planned recall date. So being able to specify exactly that recall date that they're stating to their employee, and then there's additional content we included here as well. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult for folks to explain. We want to make sure that there was lots of information in here that they employees. What we have here is that assuming that they've received all of their more than 51% of employees, they're going to be able to actually go in to submit the application that they would like to submit. So I'm just clicking on a button here. Now, are you guys able to see this or yeah, good. Okay, so what we have here, I'm just going to go through this extremely quickly, and by all means stop me if you would have any questions. It was just giving a summary of the information that we're going to be expecting as we step through the process, just so person's prepared. 15 minutes. And I'm going to just enter my information quickly here.
All right. So I'm not going to go through the entire video just because it wasn't really intended for those purposes. It's really to just show you how easy it is to go online and apply. But the really important piece of information that we want to ensure that everybody knows about is that there will not be an extension to any deadlines. And so if it's not the right time for you to bring your employees back, apply for a variance to give you some time. If you pick a date and the date comes and it's still not the right time, you can apply for an additional variance to extend your time, but only applications will be looked at that have gone through the variance process in the first place. So if you chose not to go through it in this first round, there won't be an opportunity for you to apply in the fall. So I think what we'll do now is we'll open it up to some questions. I'm wondering if people on the line may have some. We'll check on Facebook to see if anybody may have some there. If you don't feel comfortable talking about your questions on the call today, please feel free to reach out to your HR professional or to give our office a call, and we'll be sure to pass all of our questions over to our employment lawyer that we're working on with this. Also really important to reiterate the fact that the deadline for this is August 25th. And so that's essentially 12 or so days from now, maybe less, I think it's 8, where you need to apply, and you need to have 50% or more of your impacted employees to agree to this date. So let's open it up for questions, shall we? Let's look on Zoom here. Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can put it into the chat.
Acacia, this is Karen.
Karen. Hi, Karen.
I mean, there's a lot of small businesses that, and you know, their revenues have significantly been reduced by over 95, 98%. And so if we've done layoffs to some individuals, and we don't have the opportunity of even saying when they could be brought back or if that position is ever going to be there again. So how would that work for small businesses that don't have a clue if they were ever going to bring that person back again?
So at this point, there's 2 options. An employer can terminate the employment agreement, which, depending on how long the employee has been there, may trigger severance, or you can extend it for a few months to see how things go and buy you some time. If you don't extend it and people are laid off right now, that will immediately trigger severance or trigger the potential for severance depending how long these employees have been there.
Okay, that was the question. Because, yeah, I mean, I'm hearing dozens of businesses that have no chance that possibly they'll ever be able to bring back some of their staff. And so it's disheartening for sure. So that would be the only recourse then, is to advise the staff person that they're on permanent termination, or what do? You're still laying them off.
No, you'd be terminating at that point because the layoff period would be extended. So it'd be technically a termination of the job until the business resumes, right? And who knows what that looks like.
Yeah.
We've talked to a lot of different businesses across different industries, and this is, you know, people jumped at the opportunity to apply for programs to try to keep their employees attached to them. Unfortunately, we haven't really made it far out of the COVID situation, and it's making employers have to make the tough call of, do we extend this application or do we pay severance? There's some employers that we've talked to that severance of all of their employees could mean insolvency, right? And so some of them are looking at potentially bringing one job code back to the workplace while keeping another job code or unit still laid off, depending on how the business is resumed. So, you know, Karen, if you want, we can chat offline about this. I'd be happy to connect you with our employment lawyer. But you're exactly right. This is the exact concern that we're hearing across pretty much every industry at this point, at least industries that have been using the temporary layoff provision.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been able to bring back half our staff, and
Nice.
we're just not able to bring back the other half because the revenue is not there to justify it. So in the previous layoffs before COVID, we would just lay them off, but I guess you'd have to give severance. It's been so long since I've had to do that. I'm kind of neglecting on that one, but I was just, yeah, the same rules apply if you lay off now as if you did before.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. Okay. I thought it could just go. So, and so the, and this is coming into effect the end of August?
The deadline to apply for a variance is August 25th. The temporary layoff period ends August 30th. And so if you've temporarily laid off your employee and they are in that window, as of August 30th, that period is no longer. And so eligible employees will be, they can receive compensation or severance depending on how long they've been with your company.
Right. And is there, do we have to supply a form in order to make that change? Is that what these forms are?
Yeah, that's where those forms are. So we'll send them out to everyone who's registered with the step-by-step video, just so that you can see where those forms are and how to access them for sure.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the line today? If not, the Chamber office is always here for you. Our team is going to be on the phone until the 25th, ensuring that our business community knows about this. This deadline is coming up very fast, and we want to make sure that A, our employers know, but B, we have the opportunity to keep employees attached to companies so that when business is ready to resume, we have the workforce there. So I wanted just to thank everybody for your time today. Like I said, if you have any questions that we can pass on to our employment lawyer, please let us know, and have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you soon.